We'll get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Dave Myers. I'm the Senior Fellow here at the Berks County Community Foundation. Glad you can join us today. This is a very interesting and timely topic. And we're going to have a very good conversation, I think. I want to start with some very basic ground rules that we have for this, which are that we like people to keep their cameras on so we can see that we're dealing with real people. But to mute their microphones while the presentations are going on so that we can not have a whole lot of background noise. We end up recording the event. We will share the recording with everyone who registered. So whether they're able to actually join us today or they're enjoying a lunchtime on their own, we will make sure they get it. We also will post it on the YouTube channel for Berks County Community Foundation. And we will send it to our friends at BCTV, who will post it as well. We also encourage people who register for the event to share the video if they think it's appropriate and useful for other people. So please think about doing that. I do have to do one caveat here as we start this, that the opinions expressed in today's community forum do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Berks County Community Foundation. So with that caveat, we're going to get started. It's my pleasure to introduce John Adams, who was elected district attorney in Berks County in 2008. He had served before that as a lawyer in several law firms and as an assistant district attorney for the county. John has been elected district attorney 5 times, which is pretty incredible. He's a lifelong resident of Berks County. He's the 5th child of the late Reverend in Womelsdorf, and he is an ardent communicator here that we're going to turn it over to you, John. So I don't know if you want to add anything more and then introduce the rest of our team.
Well, thank you, David, and it's a pleasure to be here and pleasure to talk about this very, very important topic. I'm joined here today by Dan Height. He is the Chief Probation and Parole Officer here in Berks County. And I'm also joined here by Eli Vasquez. Eli is the Chief of the Reading Police Department. He joined us from Tampa, and he has been a wonderful addition to our police department and brings with him a broad range of experience, and we're blessed to have him here in the city of Reading. Today's topic is gun violence, and gun violence has been occurring in our county for years, and we've seen before I came in as the district attorney, we had some incredibly violent years where we had multiple homicides in the city, as high as 26. We've seen a broad range of, through the years, since I've been the DA, we've seen ebbs and flows. Most recently, in 21 and 22, 21, we had 19 homicides, 22, we had 23 homicides, and 23, we had 20 homicides. And last year, we only had 12. And I'm talking the whole county, by the way, when I'm talking about these statistics. So we've seen what I consider a dramatic drop. And it's, I believe, a lot of it is a credit to the collaboration that ourselves, Probation and Parole, and the Reading Police Department have done to establish and task forces to combat this gun violence. The district attorney's office has established a gun violence reduction task force. We are concentrating our efforts on identifying straw purchasers of weapons. Because as we all know, as we evaluate and the shootings that occur in the county, so much of the violence is committed by youth. And it's really eye-opening when we have a number of individuals between 16 and 20 who have been charged with homicide. We need to get the guns out of these individuals' hands. So we really are working together, and I'll talk a little bit about our gun program in the district attorney's office throughout this presentation, because we've done a lot of things to combat gun violence beginning back in 2018. But I think really the formation of these task forces has just established our priorities in law enforcement here in Berks County. We want to make this community the safest place for all of us to live. And I think that we are making some great team efforts to carry that plan out. So I'll turn it over to Dan Height at this point, and Dan has a little bit of a presentation, but I'll be speaking with the audience further on in this program, and I look forward to making further comments and also to any questions that people may have.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Dave. Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Height. I am the Chief Probation Officer here in Berks County. I am born and raised in Berks County, grew up spending some time, grew up in Exeter, spent a lot of my time in my youth in the Reading area. I remember riding my bike around 9th and Oley as a kid, and I'm invested in making this a safe community. So all of our efforts are really important to our department and to me personally, because again, having been born and raised here, it's really critical for me. I'm going to try my best to share a PowerPoint with everybody. So can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So the first two slides were John's. So all right, those are the stats that John went over.
But it'd be good to reiterate them, I think.
Okay. Do you want to talk about that, John?
Yeah, yes. So these are the stats for the last 4 full years, and including 2025. And in 2021, we had 19 homicides. 2 were ruled as justified. 2022, 23 homicides. In 2023, we had 20 homicides and 1 was justified. In 2024, we saw a drop, and that drop was down to 13 homicide and 1 was ruled as justified. And, let me go back to 2021. 12 of those homicides occurred in the city of Reading. In 2022, 17 out of the 23 took place in the city of Reading. In 2023, 15 of the homicides occurred in the city of Reading. In 2024, we had 12 homicides total. 8 of those homicides took place in the city. So this is not just a city issue, it's a county issue. To date in 2025, we've had 4 homicides. 3 of those homicides have been domestic violence related, and I think 2 were murder suicides to date. We're seeing what I consider we're making progress.
John, before you go ahead. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
I consider that we're making progress in combating this issue.
What does justified homicide mean?
Justified homicide means that the use of deadly force was authorized by law. So while we still consider it a homicide, the killing of the other person was self-defense.
Mhm.
And these, I think, to put it in plain English, these are homicides that occurred where self-defense was justified. And therefore, while we can put it in our homicide statistics, no criminal charges were filed.
Thank you.
I'll return to Dan.
Okay. I'm going to do my best to keep everybody at least not bored with the slideshow, so I'll try to get through this quickly. So just for everybody's benefit, I don't know if everyone is aware what probation and parole's role is and what we do here in the county. We are a joint department consisting of adult and juvenile probation. Between the two departments, we have about 140 staff, which includes 100 officers and 80 field officers. We supervise individuals that have been sentenced to a county parole sentence or a county community supervision probation sentence. So those numbers look like about 6,400 adults under supervision here in Berks County and about 530 juveniles under supervision. So anybody that's sentenced to a term of 2 years or less is on county supervision. And there's really two main goals of our job, to provide community protection and to establish long-term behavior change. And in our mind, that is the best way to lower recidivism for the future, thus keeping the community safe. So a little bit of history. I took over in 2022, and one of the things I really wanted to focus on doing was using data to drive our decision-making. So we created a quality assurance position in both adult and juvenile probation, and we tried looking at our officers and working towards their strengths. So at that point, gun crime was higher, homicides were high, and we looked at what can we do? We have a gang unit, we have a sexual offending unit, we've got a domestic violence unit, but we didn't have anything specific to address individuals in possession of firearms. So we identified an officer in our internally who's done a really great job with us, Bill Schultz, and we hired a new quality assurance officer, Dr. Brianna Davis, and the two of them became aware of this grant opportunity through the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, PCCD. They put together some information. We applied for the grant, and we were awarded just shy of $1 million for a 3-year grant, which the county always welcomes. This grant pays for the salary of 2 of our officers that make up our firearms suppression unit. It pays for training, and it pays for equipment and supplies for that unit. So our officers in that unit currently supervise about 95 cases, and those are all cases of individuals that have been convicted and placed on community supervision for a crime involving a firearm. The training that the funds help pay for include firearms education. Our officers in this unit are experts at identifying guns, gun parts. They're all master armorers. There are firearms instructors internally. There are defensive tactics instructors. The training provides gang information, gang identification information, warrants, serving, and also life-saving tactics. All of our officers are certified CPR first aid and tourniquet training. The monies also provide equipment and supplies, so it's provided external ballistic vests for our unit, and it also provides educational information for those under the supervision. So the grant activities. So I just want to reiterate, the purpose of community supervision is for community protection and long-term behavior change. So everything that we're working towards with these individuals is for those two issues. So as far as activities for community protection, this grant has focused on or has allowed our office to work on firearm suppression details. So what does that look like? That involves our officers in this caseload spending a lot of time in the field, a lot of time in the individuals under supervision's homes, their communities, during the day, during the week, during the evening, during the weekends. Our focus is on working with people that are on for these charges and making sure that they're continuing to be safe. If we're working with somebody who has a gun charge and they're in a violation status, or we think they're involved in possession of a weapon or weapon building supplies, and we have a violation, we're going to go into their home, and if we have the reason to, we're going to search that home. If something is found, we generally call in the local police, in this case, Reading or John's office, the district attorney's office. And things that have been retrieved in those searches and information is then all shared with this task force. Our officers, in addition to spending a lot of time in the homes of these individuals, are also spending a lot of time trying to be highly visible in those communities. And that's really something that I think is important. Not only does it act as a deterrent at times, but community relations are really important to me. I want folks in these communities, whether it's in the city or it's in the county, to know the officers that are involved in their areas. We encourage them to get out, talk to the MDJs, talk to the police departments, talk to community groups, and really be a part of that community. With regards to long-term behavior change, we implement evidence-based practices here. We utilize a risk needs assessment that is going to identify a risk level for the individual under supervision and what their needs are. For example, if we use the risk assessment on someone and we identify that they have antisocial cognition, we're going to get them in a program to address their thought process, whether that's an anger management class, a domestic violence class. If there's drug and alcohol issues, we're going to get them in counseling for that. And we're going to try to get them all the help and give them all the tools that they need to make better decisions in the future and avoid repeating the mistakes that got them here. The last part of our grant activities is we are developing a cognitive behavioral program, which we're starting this summer, called the Illegal Use of Firearms and Gun Violence Prevention class. It's a cognitive behavioral intervention class that brings those individuals in, and we talk about what got them here, the decision making that got them here, what are some of the potential consequences of continuing these types of behaviors. And these types of classes are evidence-based. We currently run, again, groups for anger management, domestic violence, alcohol safe driving, and we've had really great success with these types of classes. So, interagency collaboration, the creation of the Firearms Suppression Unit and their involvement in the Firearms Task Force has helped us tremendously with sharing information. We've developed great relationships with the officers in the DA's office, the officers in RPD, Reading Police Department, and it's really opened up a lot of communication, not just on what we know about who has firearms, but gang intelligence sharing. Sometimes firearms and gang involvement goes hand in hand. It helps with active warrants. We do issue warrants for individuals if they stop reporting to us, and those relationships with Reading and the DA's office has really helped out with a lot of that. The biggest part of this is networking. I think everybody, you think of networking in the criminal sense, you think of drug selling groups, but there's groups similar for gun parts, stolen gun sales, and the communication between our three offices, in my mind, is really disrupting a lot of what's going on with this. And again, the end goal, let's get these guns off the street. So here's some stats on what our Firearms Suppression Unit has done. Again, they've done an incredible job. We're still in year one of this grant, and they've retrieved 30 illegal firearms, and the majority of these firearms are stolen or what they call ghost guns. You can see that 23 of those were handguns, 7 were long guns, including assault rifles and shotguns. 10 occurrences of firearms parts. And again, firearms parts might be extended magazines, springs, frames, triggers, switches, those types of things. Illegal ammunition. One BB gun, airsoft gun, which doesn't seem like a big deal on the surface, but sometimes, again, if we have somebody that's criminally involved and they have a gun that looks like a real gun, that can be a problem. We've also retrieved body armor and, again, drugs, drug paraphernalia, and packaging material. So a couple, just for everyone's purpose, what this typically looks like. Here's an example of some of the handguns that we retrieved through searches of individuals under supervision that have been charged with gun crimes. If you take a look at that middle handgun, that has an extended barrel that's threaded. Typically, that's something a silencer can be attached to. All those have extended magazines for 30 plus rounds. And I believe those Glocks on the right have the switches. A switch is something that you can put on a Glock handgun, and it makes it fully automatic. Here's some examples of the long guns that we've recovered. Again, assault rifles, which are pretty frightening to see out on the streets. A few more pictures of automatic pistol and extended magazine pistols with switches. Some of the drugs that were recovered in our searches. Again, unfortunately, a lot of times these things go hand in hand. Ballistic vests, body armor, again, recovered in a home from somebody under supervision. This was probably our single biggest score from our unit. And I believe this is a picture of someone that was in fact manufacturing firearms. We were in a home, they actually had a 3D printer, so they were able to manufacture cases and firearms parts that way. For this particular one, this became a federal case, and the ATF was brought in on this one. And again, some of the things that tip us off to individuals on supervision, people boast about their activities, take pictures on social media of firearms, drugs, and those types of things. And that, if we see that kind of gives us a heads up. We got to get in there. Just one of the headlines from our officers, in this particular case, they found 2 pounds of marijuana and firearms and cocaine. This is our suppression unit again. But just as important as getting the firearms off the street, what I talked about earlier is we're really focused on changing behaviors long term. So we're working with individuals on making better choices, gaining employment, furthering their education. So to date, we've served over 100 participants in this program, and to date, only 6 have been rearrested. So that's a good number, and we keep track of that. We're going to continue to keep track of that at 6 months after completion, a year after completion, 2 years after completion, and constantly tweak our program and constantly look at what we can improve and do better. Again, our goal is to get somebody out, make them successful, and not see them again. Future goals, again, getting that class up and running this summer. Everybody with a gun charge is going to be going through that. And if there's money that can be used out of this grant to help individuals under supervision to gain educational and vocational activities, that's something we're going to look at spending that money on. And to incentivize people, we know that people respond better to rewards than sanctions. So that's it on our end. Before I turn it over to Eli, I just want to make sure I thank the officers in our firearms suppression unit, their supervisor, and our quality assurance supervisor who's worked on this grant. And I want to recognize all of our staff in APO and JPO. I don't think probation officers really get the recognition they deserve because it's a really, really difficult job. We're out there in the community retrieving and searching and arresting when needed, but really we're also inside our office and we're really focusing on how we can help and how we can change behaviors for the long term. So I'm going to try to end this slide and turn it over to John and Eli. Is the slide gone?
Yep.
Yep.
Perfect. All right.
It
Thanks.
is.
I guess it's my turn. My name's Eli Vasquez. Pleasure to be here this afternoon. I want to apologize for my video. My computer's not working properly, so you're not going to get video. It's probably a good thing you're not looking at me. So I come from law enforcement in Tampa. 38 years. I started my career in California after serving in the Marine Corps. Went to Florida and became a Tampa police officer in 1994. And to date, it's about 38 years now in law enforcement. I basically moved up here from Florida. Everybody's always asking me the question, why did you come from Florida? Well, my father, I'm from Jersey. I'm a Jersey boy. So my father lives in New Jersey, and he's up in age. I just wanted to be a little closer to him towards the end of his life span here on Earth. And here I am. I saw this great opportunity, this great city. I applied and was fortunate and blessed enough to be here. I got hired in 2024, beginning of 2024. So I've been here just over a year and a couple months. And I say it's going pretty well so far as crime. I had three goals when I started, and crime prevention and crime reduction was my number one goal. Obviously, community engagement, and then excellence in everything that we do. Crime prevention and reduction, how we do that is through intelligence, and it's data driven. What I like to do is focus on what I call the worst of the worst offenders. Most people don't understand or realize that only about 6%, and give or take a percentage here and there, of offenders commit most of the crimes, about 70 to 80% of the crimes. So that's who we focus on. We don't arbitrarily go out, and I don't send my cops out to just randomly do patrol and do whatever they want, because with random patrolling, you get random results. So we're very focused. And I think you can see that in the numbers, in the 2024 numbers. The homicides have gone down, and that's because I'm putting the officers in the right spots and getting the right intel and data. Make sure I disseminate that amongst not only just the patrol division, but the investigative division as well, and the services division. So I call that pinpoint policing in the hot spots, not every area of the city is rampant with crime. There's certain spots, certain locations, certain offenders that are repeat offenders. That's who we focus on. Every week I have what we call a ComStat meeting or a crime meeting, if you will, where we're discussing crime in the city. And like Dan said, I have in my staff meeting, I just started last year. I invited the DA's office, the probation, parole, JPOs, APOs, the sheriff's office, and just try to get as many folks in my staff meeting so we can talk about crime and share that intel. And that's really how we're fighting crime, through intelligence and that data-driven approach. Just want to share a couple of stats with you. In 2024, the city saw a 21% reduction in crime as far as Part A crimes. And what that is murders, manslaughters, rapes, robberies, ag assaults, burglaries, theft, and motor vehicle and arson as well. So we saw a 21% reduction in crime there. And that's doing a lot of focused policing. I'll give you an example. My narcotics unit, they've seized in 2024. They seized 30 weapons. They made 60 arrests. They had 259 narcotics and gun investigations, and that's just us, the RPD. We've done 37 search warrants. We seized 8.35 pounds of fentanyl, which basically can kill the entire city. To put it in perspective, 35 pounds of cocaine and 956 pills, various pills that could also kill folks in the city. So that's just my narcotics unit, working in conjunction with the DA's office and with other county agencies as well. It's important to know that not any one agency can do law enforcement and make a difference in crime reduction by themselves. You have to partner up with, for instance, the DA's office, with the probation and parole department, as well, as Dan said, and that's how you get crime down. A lot of times, folks will ask me in community meetings, why is RPD, why is the Reading Police Department in the county doing some kind of search warrant in the county? Well, you got to understand that whatever drugs and money is going on outside in the county eventually make their way generally to the city of Reading. And so it behooves us to make sure that we're part of the team to take those folks that are dealing in drugs and guns in the county as well, take them out of the system and put them where they belong. In 2025 thus far, this first quarter, I'm looking at a 32% reduction in crime. And that's, again, our Part A crimes, which is murders, robberies, ag assaults, and burglaries. Right now, I'm looking at a 50% reduction in murders, 46% reduction in ag assaults, and 33% reduction in rapes. And so I'm going to maintain that focus. Like I said, partnerships is how we get it done. We're doing multiple operations, whether it's narcotics operations, probation, parole operations, gun details. We've seized hundreds of guns over the years, and that's the way we want to keep going in that direction. So making sure that we have open communications is the key, and how we focus on crime prevention here in the city. I don't have any slides, but if anybody has any questions for me, I'm here to answer.
John, do you have anything else you want to wrap up with?
Well, I'd like to kind of go back a little bit and inform everyone that our gun program really began in 2018 when we were able to obtain what's called NIBIN. And NIBIN is a ATF system which we use to obtain when we confiscate shell casings. We put the shell casings into NIBIN, and we can connect those shell casings from shooting to shooting, and it was just an invaluable tool that we now have thanks to ATF. And you know, this resource, we're kind of one of the lucky ones, because when we obtained NIBIN in 2018, there were only 4 departments in the state that had NIBIN: State Police, Pittsburgh, Philly, and Berks County. So the fact that we got NIBIN is enabling us to investigate gun crimes and to solve these gun crimes. We've also we got a grant about 3 years ago, where we then purchased a gun tank that we shoot guns into. And we have 2 firearms examiners in my office. We're putting a lot of our resources into combating the gun crimes that occur in Berks County. So there's been a lot of effort and a lot of collaboration, which has been great to date, to combat these crimes and to try our best to get these guns out of the hands of the individuals who shouldn't have them. And those are generally our youth and our individuals who are convicted felons, who are unable by law to lawfully possess, own a firearm.
Okay, well, thank you. A bunch of questions. We've got a bunch from the audience, and I've got a few questions as well. Could we do the demographic things again? You mentioned that domestic violence was a cause of it. A lot of it was the youth. Are there any categories of populations that you would identify? Are the young men, young women?
I don't think I could, 3 of our homicides to date this year have been domestic violence, and between couples, married and or individuals who were in a relationship. So there has been no demographics that I could pinpoint in regard to that. I do believe that mental health issues were involved in at least 2 of those, though.
And with the people that you deal with that have the mental health issues, what do you refer them to? Some places that can deal with people with mental health or behavioral health issues?
Yes, we have a very robust mental health diversion program, and also a very robust referral system that where Berks Connections works very closely with law enforcement in the county. Law enforcement will, when they come upon someone who has clear mental health issues, will make a referral, and we will try to get that individual involved in mental health treatment as soon as possible. That may also occur if that individual was arrested during the preliminary arraignment before a magisterial district justice. They also make those referrals. And this program has gotten a lot of attention lately. We did a recent press conference with PCCD because of the robust and really good program that we have here with crisis intervention training with law enforcement. We are training law enforcement to recognize individuals with behavioral health issues, and we want to refer them to treatment as quickly as possible.
What impact did COVID have on gun violence? Did you notice any significant change?
I think that everywhere saw an uptick in gun violence during COVID. And when I say everywhere, I'm talking about the whole nation, especially in our cities. I believe we saw somewhat of an uptick here during COVID, and I think that brought us all together to form these task forces that we formed to combat the gun violence that had occurred. But and I know that there are statistics all over the place. Yes, COVID made a big effect on gun violence.
John, I know recently the Reading Hospital had an event that you participated in. It was hosted, had the Lieutenant Governor come, and I think he was there in part because of what the successful work that's been done in terms of reducing gun violence. But what did you learn from that meeting? Is there any takeaways you got from that?
Oh yeah, I mean, they're a partner in this, and the program that they and the grant that they received was a lot to assist the victims of gun violence and to help them. And I think that makes a big difference. Listen, the hospital, we're blessed that we have this trauma center right here in our county. They've saved countless lives. And those individuals who are affected by gun violence, they need help. And one of the things that we have seen, trends, is that when we have a shooting at one place, we have a retaliatory shooting at another place. So when we get some of the other participants that are affected by gun crimes involved in treating the victims, that goes a long way to stop the problem from continuing because retaliatory shootings used to be one of the major problems that we would see in our city and our county.
The money that they received and the money, and I believe that two of the partners in this, in your collaboration, received money from the Commission on Crime and Delinquency. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
One of those went to Dan and what he's already described his, the other went to Eli?
That is correct. Yeah, Eli's has a gun task force. And that's the City of Reading's Neighborhood Gun Violence Detail. And that is, and I'll ask Eli if he wants to describe what that task force does, but as the district attorney, I want to take this opportunity to tell you, these task forces make and are making a difference. They are really working well. The task force that my office started is we are concentrating and doing a lot of work to identify the straw purchasers of these guns. The straw purchasers are purchasing these guns and then they're selling them to individuals who have no right or legal authority to have a gun. So we're all working together, and it's been there's been a lot of success stories by all of these task forces, and those success stories, believe me, will continue, as it is my number one priority to make our community safe through these task forces. So I'll ask Eli to comment a little bit on their task force.
Yes, and I agree with the DA. These task forces make all the difference. Just my gun detail, the officers that they sign up on extra duty and use the funds available to go out there and try to suppress crime and take guns off the street. Just my officers alone in 2023, we pulled 123 guns off the street with multiple arrests. And these are old stats that I have, but in a presentation that I did, but John's investigators, his team, I have 141 guns that were taken off the street, just his team. And then RPD Narcotics, they took 104 guns off the street. And that's a 2021 to 2024 timeframe. So very effective, and we're going to continue that. We continue that every month. We're doing operations, and that's not going to go away at all.
I understand that there were several other organizations in Berks County that also received money from the Commission on Crime and Delinquency. I think the Olivet's Boys and Girls Clubs, the CASA, the Village of Reading, and several others. Other relationships with those organizations and working with them in collaboration?
Yes, we do. We all collaborate. I see Salita Simmons is on this. Her organization has received a grant from PCCD. I'm pretty certain.
She said no. She's waving her hands no.
Oh, no, okay.
She needs one.
Yeah, I'm on the commission, so I am. I've been a member of the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency for the past, I think, 6 years, and there is been a number of community organizations that have received some grants that are concentrated on trying to help the youth in our community. Olivet's being one, but some other community organizations that are really, they're making a difference. They are great team members, and they're making a difference in our community to help. And generally these grants have been kind of directed towards the youth in our community, which I think it's very important that we intercede with these young people at a very young age. Because if, once they get involved in the system, it's tough to get them out, and we need to get them, keep them away from crime, keep them away from the gun crimes, because we all know that there are, root causes that cause some of these youth to become involved in gangs. And while I don't believe our gangs in the city are very disorganized, it is just very important that we redirect the youth out of that type of lifestyle and into a lifestyle that is socially acceptable.
Dan, you mentioned that you had 100 people participate in your program and only 6 of whom became arrested again. What are the elements of that program? What do you think has made it successful? And is 6 out of 100 a reasonable result?
Well, I think one of the most important things probation officers can do is develop a professional alliance with the folks they work with. That goes a long way. Let those individuals know we're in it with them. We're working side by side with them. We want to see them succeed. Our staff has been trained in many techniques to develop that alliance. All our staff are trained in motivational interviewing, core correctional practices. We've worked with the University of Cincinnati and the Carey Group to bring our officers up to speed. It's changed tremendously from 25 years ago. I think the general perception of probation and parole is, that they want to catch people messing up and put them in jail. And I can tell you that is far from the case. We want to help the people we're working with. If we see that somebody has a need for drug and alcohol counseling, we're going to get them in treatment. If we see a need for a training or a vocational program or educational or anything like that, we're going to get them the proper resources. So we realize that people are going to make mistakes on supervision, and we're going to give them chances. We're trying to decrease the number of people in jail and really only use that as an option for situations where those folks are a threat to the community, i.e. they have a firearm. So I think it's a credit to our officers, not only the officers in that unit, but our officers across the board. And training and education is getting better.
A lot of the focus we talked about, for obvious reasons, was focused on homicides and gun violence. Are there other incidents of gun violence or gun use that you guys have been dealing with that fit into the statistics, into your activities?
Well, for us, again, we're dealing with county cases. So if it's we do see occasional homicides, not typically with firearms. So those kind of more severe cases, of course, there's times where people on supervision will reoffend, and unfortunately, there have been times where we've had people on supervision who have committed, heinous acts. They've committed murder, or we've got 4 officers in our domestic violence program, and that's an area we really want to focus on. We know that individuals that commit domestic violence frequently escalate. So again, we're working closely with those folks identified in domestic violence. And if we see an escalation, we're going to address it. That's a caseload where we have courses in-house that we address domestic violence and anger management issues, but we use, again, a separate actuarial risk assessment tool to identify those that are more at risk to commit future domestic violence crimes, and we get them in more intensive treatment. A lot of our folks work with Commonwealth Clinical, Berks Counseling. So we really want to, when I say we focus on high-risk people, we want to focus on those that we think are a risk to be unsafe.
We had a lot of conversation from the audience about engaging community more broadly and the work that you're doing and partnerships. Is there any sense of that? It seems like you've done that a little bit, Dan and Eli. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit more.
Sure. I mean, I see Salita, I see Rivera, I believe they've both been in our office for staff meetings or we've met on multiple occasions. But we work with big organizations, we work with small grassroots organizations. So anything, our goal is to meet our kids and our adults where they're at. So if we can get in the community and be a presence and work with various organizations that are going to help the kids and the adults we service, we're all for it.
Eli, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, from my perspective, I mean, that's one of the biggest, community engagement is one of the biggest ways that you're able to fight crime. Just getting that intelligence as well from, engaging in the community conversation. We've added, I don't know if everybody knows, but we've added some social workers, social working liaisons. We added 2 of them. I like to add some more and eventually maybe make a crisis intervention team that a lot of agencies throughout the United States have. But I'm slowly working towards that. But we have 2 that will go out to calls with the officers once they're called, once the situation's safe. They go out and they try to assess, especially in domestic violence cases, what needs the folks there have, whether it's for their children or for themselves or counseling or so on and so forth, and they can connect them with all the resources that we have in our community. So that's one thing. We try to engage the youth, obviously, through the Youth Academy, where they can go out and see if they eventually want to be a police officer in the future. That's important to us because right now I'm down 24 officers. And we need to continue to try to recruit, especially younger folks from within the city as well. And then I have a community engagement officer that his name is Sandy Sanchez. He's been here for a while. He tries to get engaged in as many events within the city and try to bridge that gap between law enforcement, RPD in particular, and the community. So it's a constant task that we're doing, and it's something that we're continuing to develop every day. It doesn't go away, and we're going to continue that.
I think it's very clear that all of us on this panel understand the importance of the community prevention aspect. And, we're joined on this program by some representatives from some of those community organizations that really work with some of those individuals who are at risk, and they do a great job. And I have to give them credit because I think that they have, and the work that they are doing has really suppressed some of our violence that had been occurring in our community. We know, and because of the intelligence that we have with our gang units, our police departments, and there's a lot of intelligence out there. We know who the offenders are. Generally, we know who the offenders are before they offend. So, and the fact that these community organizations have gotten involved with some of these individuals have, I think, put a dent in these individuals acting out, and they do make a difference. And I applaud their efforts because we can't do it alone through enforcement. We need their help on the prevention side. Goes a long way, a long, long way to solving these problems.
I know that this is still up in the air and very confusing about what's happening right now, but will the federal changes, budget cuts, other sorts of changes have any impact, any consequence for what you're doing?
From my perspective, we are not, can't say that I don't believe that we are receiving any federal funding. I do not believe our efforts will be affected at all. And I do know that we have county commissioners who are invested in a lot of the work that we do. So I believe that there will be funding from other paths if needed. But I think there's some unanswered questions out there on that, but I do believe that I don't think we're going to see in the long run a reduction in federal efforts. I had a meeting yesterday with the new U.S. attorney. I believe that they will be very engaged in our community when we need their assistance. So I don't think when it comes to law enforcement efforts that we will see much of a reduction and effect as a result of maybe cuts in the federal budget.
Could you just really quickly go through who cannot legally own a gun, carry a gun?
Well, yeah, individuals who that we see too often who are possessing firearms are youth. That to me is the biggest problem that we see. Youth being 21 and under, you cannot obtain a license to carry a firearm until you are the age of 21, a concealed firearm. An individual under the age of 18 has generally does not, cannot, unless they're using it for target shooting or something like that, cannot possess a handgun. The individuals that we have identified too often, who are our young offenders, they don't think. They don't understand the consequences of that trigger pull. And I've used the term time and time again, young and dumb. You know, they don't understand that, number one, they can't legally carry a firearm, and number two, they don't think about the consequences to themselves or others when they pull that trigger. And we've seen a number of our homicides that have been committed over the past 3-4 years have been committed by youth. And that's a real problem. And that is one of the, that is a real problem that we've had. So I must say that some of the work that we are doing is to get those guns out of youthful offenders. The other group of individuals who I've seen a escalating number of these cases, who are individuals who are, I'll use the term convicted felons, but because of a prior criminal conviction, they are ineligible to own or possess a firearm. And we see those individuals, and many times those individuals are under supervision by state parole or county probation and parole, and they have a gun. And the consequences of them owning, possessing, carrying a firearm are grave. They will look at lengthy periods of incarceration if they own or possess a firearm. So if an individual has a prior conviction for the delivery of drugs, there's a number of offenses, robbery, any violent crimes, those individuals have no right to own or possess a firearm. So, but we're seeing many of those individuals will possess a firearm. We identify them. We are able to obtain probable cause to stop them and arrest them. And they're going to go to jail. They're going to go to jail for lengthy periods of time.
Yeah, we had a question from Simon Mangola about the feasibility of a weapon monitoring system. And it sounds like that's sort of what you're talking about, John. Is there that kind of thing? Have we known what other communities have done in terms of monitoring who might have illegal possession of weapons?
Well, we do, what kind of shared earlier about our intelligence. And we're all working together. We know, and we know who the offenders are. And the offenders should maybe take notice. We do know. We know who you are. We know who the individuals are that are involved in the gang lifestyle. And we are targeting those offenders through some of these task forces, because we're not pulling people out of the hat. Generally, we know who they are, and we're going to concentrate our efforts on individuals who we have identified as being involved in gangs, drugs, and those are the individuals we will concentrate on in our enforcement. So,
Sorry, John.
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Dave, if I could jump in, I have to leave. I have a meeting. But I wanted to get back to the point John was making about youthful offenders and firearms. I'm leaving now because we have a meeting at our former Berks County Youth Detention Center with some of the representatives from Pennsylvania and senators. We're trying to acquire funds to reopen that facility because there is a severe limit of detention beds in the state of Pennsylvania. And just in Berks County, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 cases where police request detention for us for an offense where a juvenile is deemed a threat to the community. We are currently unable to detain those kids. So I'm happy to answer any questions that popped up on the side. If anybody wants to email me personally, feel free to email me. I'm happy to take phone calls about anything. And anybody that's on the call right now and has the ear of a senator or a representative, the crisis for detention beds is really it's critical. So I want to get that plug in. I really appreciate you being having me on. I appreciate John's partnership and leadership. I appreciate Eli's partnership and leadership. And again, I'll take any emails from anybody. Again, I'm happy to talk to anybody. So thank you all. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Dan. How can people in the broader community find out what's happening in terms of crime and what you're doing? We don't have newspapers in quite the same way as what we historically did. People can watch whatever they want to watch on TV news and get, posts from all sorts of crazy places. How do you guys think we can be effective in communicating what's happening here in Berks County?
That is a great point. And I can't tell you enough. As you know, I became the DA and I was elected in 2007, took office in 2008. And I have experienced the change in the media that has been great. So, now a lot of things that we are doing, if we can share it, we will share it on our social media from the DA's office. We have a Facebook and Twitter account. We will get the word out when it is feasible and appropriate about some of the things that we are doing. But you point out something that is extremely evident to myself in my position. The media is not what it used to be, not even close. So it is difficult to get the word out about what's going on in our community sometimes. And I do know that I think social media has taken a big, is now filling those shoes. But again, that is a void that we are experiencing. No question about it.
We have a few people who I think might be good to let them talk here for a minute, if that's okay. Salita, you want to ask any questions, say anything, talk about what you're doing?
Thank you. First, thank you for allowing us to be here. I'm a part of two entities, the nonprofit that I'm the founder of and run, and also Berks Community Action Program. I first want to say thank you to the DA, to the probation and parole, to our new chief of police. I had the honor of meeting him when he first came on board. So thank you guys for the efforts that you have put forth. It is a significant change in crime. I have probably been to 11 of those homicide scenes where I've seen a child's head blown off, and this, that, and the third. So it is intense to see a little kid dead or a kid be the cause of somebody being dead. It isn't easy out here to combat crime as well as poverty. So my only concern is, usually when you combat something or you're trying to implement something, you have to start from the ground up. So work up and down usually doesn't work well. So I had asked the question to John, and we had this discussion before. What was the number one thing in his observation in his professional career did he think was the cause of gun violence? And I think we'll both agree that it's poverty. So not selectively to our justice system, but just overall, I'd like to see us start working on combating that. More job opportunities, more affordable housing. A lot of these kids that are committing these crimes, they're growing up with their parents around the same age or a single parent out of home trying to provide the necessary things. And again, that's not an excuse, a justifiable excuse, but it very well is a reason to be in. So I just like to see more things happen when it comes to, employment, affordable employment, job training, and providing different opportunities for these youth to get involved with. We have the Real Deal 610 teen ambassadors, kids serving kids. They have their website. They all have business cards. We do events every summer, just focusing on kids with suicidal information, because that's a big thing in our community that a lot of times we don't talk about. There are kids committing suicide and gun violence. But just starting to use more of a diverse audience. No choice without my voice. So, the very same people that are committing these crimes or victims of, we need to start having a more diverse audience so that there's some type of relation or familiarness, and we can try to really combat this situation as much as possible. And thank you for having me here.
John or Eli, have any response?
Well, I agree. Poverty plays a big part of this. I also believe that it also, plays a big part in identifying those individuals who get involved with, and I use the term loosely, gang. And gangs aren't just in the city. We're seeing gang affiliations in our suburban school districts. So yes, and again, poverty's probably at the root of a lot of those youth that get involved in that lifestyle. And to me, we do have some great organizations working in our county to assist people in job training. Berks Connections has a very robust workforce program. We have some other Pathstones was in to see me. They have some training. And I know there's other organizations that offer workforce training to try to redirect and get individuals involved with our workforce. And as we all know, there's a lot of opportunity out there right now. Our economy is pretty in good shape. Many of our large employers in our county are looking for people. They're looking for employees. So there is really, we're in a stage economically where there's a lot of opportunity out there. We need to push some of our youth and young adults to the job market because if they're not working, they're getting in trouble. So they need to be busy. They need to be involved with activities. Listen, I'm a big athletic guy. I want people to be involved in sports. I want people to have, to be involved and do involved in activities that do not bring about crime.
Well, real quick to answer that, because there are opportunities, but the opportunities that are available are not available to everyone. If you have a background, it's very strenuous. So, let's just be realistic with that.
Yeah.
Is there are opportunities, but the opportunities that are available are not expendable to everybody. So when you have somebody in a situation where they don't have a state ID, but they don't have a job, and in order to get a job, they got to have a state ID, but they don't have the money, then what do you say to them, right? So, we need to make doable opportunities for people in all categories. The overall opportunity doesn't work for individuals. So we need to create individual opportunities that make sense and that are doable for people in all type of categories.
You are right. And I do know that through some of the programming that Connections Works is offering, those opportunities are given to many people. And as many people know, I came from kind of a background that, I did grow up in Wummelsdorf. My father was the superintendent of Bethany Children's Home for many years. I came from somewhat of an interesting background, although, and I practiced criminal defense for many years. And I can tell you that I have seen a lot of success stories, individuals who have gone to jail for years and have gotten out and have really changed their life. So I have seen such positive change from individuals who were involved in the criminal justice system. And believe me, it's not just one or two, it's many. So I know that there are opportunities that people can change and people can become a member of our society and contribute to the positive parts of our society, despite the fact that they may have been in the system. People can change.
Okay, so turn over. In working with the youth, I know you were saying there's a lot of opportunities, and maybe I am like not aware of them, because our youths are trying to find a sense of belonging. They're looking for educational opportunities. They're looking for employment opportunities. One of the things, well, the driver for youth is to be able to have their own, money. And to be honest, somebody just said it. There's not a lot of hiring that's happening. And if it is happening, it is not for all demographics of youth. Recently, we did an experiment where our youth had an address in the city versus a youth outside of the city. And they applied for the same job. One got called back, one never did. And so we have to look at the reality of the youths that, are the people who are getting support. It's always, it's not out in the open that everyone is aware of these opportunities. And so we have to do better of giving those opportunities a public forum so that they can be shared. But we also have to look at all the barriers for some youths to get opportunities. And so that's a real conversation that needs to happen.
I couldn't agree more. And I know that there are barriers out there, and we have to break down those barriers.
We have Dan Fogarty, who is with the Workforce Development Board here. Dan, and I think you're hearing messages about things that you might want to consider as you're doing your strategic plan and you're reaching out to employers and to educators. I don't know, Dan, if you want to say anything.
Yeah, Dave, thanks. Just so folks are aware, and on a hopeful note, the statewide youth unemployment rate, which is really reflected here in Berks County, is about 7.6%. That sounds high compared to the general population, but for youth, that's the lowest that's been since about 2006, 2007, so 19 years ago. We're also finding at the Career Link that one of the challenges we've had to increase the wages we pay students for subsidized job training that they can get through the Career Link, because otherwise they don't stick with the job because they can make more money with local employers. So one of the best barometers for this, and DA Adams mentioned Connections Work. They do specifically re-entry job fairs twice a year down at the DoubleTree. I'm an employer by background before I came to the board 10 years ago, Dave. 10 years ago when BCPS ran a job fair, there'd be a handful of employers that would show up, but they really weren't. They didn't send a lot of people. They weren't really all that, in a hiring mood or mode. That has changed dramatically since then because of the labor shortages. So, what we now see is large number of employers, including some of our largest employers like East Penn Manufacturing, regularly attend those events. So I would say to the community groups, my suggestion would be, try to get the young people down to the Career Link. I know it's hard. They get lost on the way. Youth reentry is about as tough as it gets. Reentry work is tough from workforce development. Youth is really tough. But there's a lot of more employers that are willing to consider folks without good work histories than in the past. It's not perfect and it's not equal. I would also say to young people or community groups working with young people, in our view at the board, one of the best preventions for youth violence and disconnectedness is career and technical education. We have two of the best CTC systems in the state, and particularly in and around Reading and Muhlenberg Township. Reading-Muhlenberg has they have great programs. The biggest challenge we have there, Dave, is the word is out. Now they have waiting lists for most of their programs. Yeah. But to the extent that we can get to young people in purposeful career and technical education when they're freshmen or sophomores in high school, DA Adams, I think you'll find those kids at a lower rate are who you and Mr. Hayter are working with. Does that sound right to you, John?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't emphasize enough. That is absolutely correct.
I'm going to call on a couple more people. Radera McClendon, do you want to ask a question?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for having this forum. I think this is a conversation that all of us can get lost in and talk about for hours because there's so many, it's so multifaceted, but I'm going to stick to my question that I put in the chat. So I'm just going to read it verbatim. Find it here. Okay, so at this forum, we heard that many young people are being incarcerated for committing violent crimes, and there's some acknowledgement of the urgent need to get guns out of their hands. Dan did a wonderful job highlighting what they're doing to address root causes like employment inequity, and Eli shared how he brings his team together to discuss violence in his office. But I'm wondering how much of that includes direct input from the community. For example, this forum would have greatly benefit, if the presence of victims and survivors of gun violence, along with community members like myself, who is trained in violence prevention and have been working on the front lines for many years. Many of us live in the city and bring extensive lived experience and insight to these conversations. I mean, it's great that we have a chance to now, but having a seat at the table and being part of the development would have been nice. We also heard partnerships with major institutions, but what about grassroots organizations that are deeply embedded in the community and already doing the work? There's so much more that can and should be done. And with that in mind, I like to ask, what are your institutions actively doing to change policies to better support these individuals? We heard about bringing services to them, but what are we doing within these institutions to better serve them? And while the word partnership was mentioned, I didn't hear much about including lived experience or centering survivors in a truly community-focused way. And then lastly, have you considered implementing a group violence intervention, a GVI model, which has been successful in other cities? Thank you.
Any response from Eli or John?
Well, I think that unfortunately Dan isn't here, that's sort of more of Dan's uh, area. But as we have had some groups of offenders that they will meet with their victims as part of the programming that Probation and Parole is implementing. And clearly, I understand the importance of the communities groups that, for example, that you represent, and their importance in prevention. Unfortunately, I support prevention. My office does not have the resources to be too involved in the prevention piece of that, but we support it and we will continue to support it. We do have a victim witness unit. We do a lot of work with victims on a daily basis. And we will continue that work. And that is a big part of my office's work. But again, you are that community prevention piece, and we look forward to your work. And I think it can make and does make a big difference.
Eli, do you want to say anything? Add anything?
From my perspective, once we're dealing with the youth, it's kind of too late. If we catch them with weapons and we make arrests, it's we kind of failed them. So I agree that there's got to be more programs, more collaboration. I try to do what we at the police department try to do what we can. I've met with Salida here in my office. I've met with Shaika in my office. I try to meet with as many folks as possible to try to get a better understanding of what's going on out in the streets with the youth. But we're limited, not only in resource, but in scope as well. We're law enforcement. So there's only so much we can do. Like I said, I've added social workers to help try to mitigate as many issues that come up in families that could potentially lead to, a youth going astray and not doing the right thing. With the youth academy, with our community engagement officers, and it's not just that one officer. I go to roll calls and I talk to all the officers that we're all community engagement officers, and anytime you get an opportunity to build a relationship out in the community, you need to do that and try to gain information as well to find out, from families when they go to calls, what help they need. And we do what we can, but that's I think beyond our scope. We're more law enforcement than anything else. But we try to do our part as well. It's just a difficult thing. And, the youth do need the opportunities out there, the training opportunities, the job opportunities that would mitigate a lot of what we have to deal with. Unfortunately, if they don't get that, then we're dealing with the consequences of that. That's where we are now.
I couldn't agree more with Eli. The piece, unfortunately, when the case is referred to us, the crime has already been committed, unfortunately. And that prevention piece, you have to understand, we recognize how important it is, because that prevention piece prevents that case coming to our office, coming to us to prosecute, coming to us to arrest. And I will tell you that prevention piece, we value it, and we understand that it is very important. because prevention goes a long way to keeping those numbers down, that have really brought this forum to light, and that we've seen a reduction. But that prevention piece is a big part of the reduction, and we recognize that.
I got a quick question. Just real quick, I'm sorry to jump in, Dave. So just recently, John
Okay,
and
I'm just
Dan,
supposed to be running the meeting, but that's okay.
I'm sorry to be real quick. We just recently met with so many different people within the county, you know, the county commissioners, we met with the DA, you know, and it seems like everybody's saying, I don't do it, they do it, I don't do it, they do it, it's not me, so who is the people responsible for preventative strategies? Because like the DA mentioned in the beginning, when he mentioned all the numbers, right? This has been going on really forever, but with the youth strongly since 2021. So we've had an idea each year what to expect the next year. And there's never been any preventative strategies implemented. So my question, I guess, is if yous don't do that, and you know, Eli's don't do, the Reading Police Department don't do that, who does? Do we go to our county commissioners? Because yes, we're grassroots and we're embedded in the streets, but we're limited as well.
Well, that's a very interesting question. And I think we support it, but the DA's office and you know, my resources only go so far. And we rely on organizations like yourself to be that piece. And we want you to be part of this, and we will have you participate with us, and we will participate with you. But am I running that prevention program? No, I'm supporting it, and we'll be part of whatever you need. But our resources only go so far, as Eli commented, and thankfully there are organizations, and I think we have plenty of organizations in our community to support that prevention piece. Your organization, Olivet's, all these type of organizations are all part of preventing, especially our youth, from making bad decisions. And that's what we want to do. We want to prevent the youth from making those bad decisions that I don't want them to be a statistic. Because
Okay. Yeah, thank you, John. I'm sorry to interrupt. We're getting close to our end time here. We've got one question from Simon Wangola, and then I want to call on one more person. So Simon, what's your question quickly?
Thank you so much. I don't think mine is a question. I wanted to contribute to the efforts that everybody is discussing about. I think when we talk about opportunities and the preventive aspect of violence in our communities, it is not going to be a one-person initiative. And as much as we are talking about preventing, I think each one of us is doing a piece of it. But our youth also needs to take a step further to look at where these opportunities are so that they can take advantage of them. I know I work with the police around here, and it is not their joy to arrest these young people or even put them in prison. If anything, they try to help. If I can just mention a few things, especially from the city of Reading. The city of Reading, for example, as I speak to you right now, it has over 10 positions that are open, and they are looking for people from within the community to come and take advantage of these opportunities. Priority is given to our young people, especially from the city. If anyone can come with your qualifications and look for an opportunity that we have, there is a discussion our HR will discuss with you, and they will make sure to support you so that you can take advantage of this opportunity. Dave, you are also aware that last year and part of this year, the city has been working hard to bring in the city revitalization and improvement program. That program right now is running to work with businesses to make sure that more opportunities, employment opportunities are created. And if you look at that, if you just go down there to check what is happening, I think you will see more jobs being created compared to many years that have that have passed. The issue of housing, one of the colleagues talked about housing. That is an initiative the mayor has taken on, and I think, as I conclude, these opportunities are available. All I will ask is that our youth takes a step further to look for them, and they will find them. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Simon. I'm going to call on one last person to do something, to comment about something here. Laura Cadero, do you want to talk really briefly?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing this conversation together and all the community organizations that are represented. This is definitely an issue that's so near and dear to our community. I see a lot of people that especially work in the space of prevention, which is it's challenging because prevention, we don't always have the hard statistics to show what we're doing. So I think it's very hopeful to see these rates of homicides going down. And I just want to recognize all the organizations that are part of that, part of that work. And John, my question is related to that. We talked a lot about how to build more collaboration with organizations. And I'm just wondering, as we're looking for our path forward from this conversation, are the best channels to do that? You know, when we look at the areas of need, especially for high risk and justice involved youth, what you see for justice involved youth, what are the areas that community-led, community-driven change are really primed to address that's beyond the scope? Already you've identified kind of prevention, but if there could be more specifics in that. So that's part one. And then the other part is the best channel of collaboration just sending an email, having one-on-one meetings? What recommendations do you have to really take that step forward in real collaboration with the police department, the DA, among our community organizations? Thank you.
Well, I think I'm a little old-fashioned when it comes to what I think my answer is, and I think that many times the individuals that you may be working with and who are at risk, they need to be redirected. I think I ran into earlier this week some individuals out on the street who I used to represent, or I represented their family members. And they're not involved in the system any longer. They got a job. They are involved in activities that are not criminal related. Their attention, those individuals who are at risk, we need to redirect them away from the bad elements and the bad associates that they have, and I hate to use this term, enlighten them to another side of the world, because too often the individuals may themselves not have much criminal intent, but it's not what they do, it's what the people that they hang around with do. And I think that redirecting many of these individuals through the organizations that are represented here today goes a long way to them becoming successful, to get away from that gang element, get away from that criminal element. We need to redirect them to work, to sports, to church, if that works. But they need to be redirected away from negative influences. And I think that goes a long way in changing an individual's behavior.
Laura, I wanted to also give you the opportunity to talk about the group that you're bringing together, the Hispanic Center is bringing together in June. Do you want to do that quickly?
Sure.
You have less than a minute to do it.
Okay, it's not actually, Centro Hispano is not bringing them together, but we're a part of a group. Centro Hispano is also a recipient of violence and intervention prevention grants, a grant from PCCD, as well as about 7 other organizations over the past couple of years that are implementing, community violence intervention projects. We received technical assistance from WestEd, which is probably available to I think you guys that are also receiving these funds. And WestEd is bringing organizations from across Greater Reading that are working in violence prevention, receiving these grant recipients, to come together for a strategic planning meeting in a few weeks to look at how we can be more collaborative and be more comprehensive in our strategy for violence prevention and intervention in our community. We try to collaborate across organizations, but somehow it can still seem fragmented or siloed, disjointed. So this is an attempt for us to come together, also having a technical advisor to walk us through that process. This is the first time we're doing it in this way. And it's not to exclude any other organizations. It's kind of just a first thing that we're doing in this way, but I'm excited for that. And it leaves me with a hopeful kind of next step. And I hope that we can have, more of a plan and we can engage more with the DA and the probation office. And thank you for being here for that.
We'll share the registration list of everybody who registers for this with Laura. If it's appropriate, she can have them be invited to the event. With that, I think we've reached our endpoint plus. I promised our presenters we'd be done by 1 o'clock, and we're a little bit late. John and Eli, do you want to say any last things before we go?
Well, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to bring us all together. I think it was very important, and it's a very important topic. And the topic that Laura, that you just brought up, Dave and Laura, having this kind of a central one-stop shopping so that we know what's out there, what resources are out there, is fantastic. We need to know that because there's a lot of resources here in our community, and being able to connect people to those resources goes a long way to the prevention piece of this issue.
Eli, any quick things?
Yeah. For me, I just want to give a little corny fact here. In 1829, Sir Robert Peel was considered the founder of policing, and he created 9 principles of policing, which are still in effect to date. His first principle was the prevention of crime, which makes sense. If we do things to try and prevent crime, we don't have to deal with everything we're talking about right now. And so I think we all have to take an approach, like it's a holistic approach. It's every organization plus the police department. I'm gonna tell you right now, I was a cop at one point out in the streets. I hated dealing with juvenile crime and hated having to go and arrest a juvenile because the whole system is so difficult to deal with. And I guarantee you, my cops now, they hate it. Who wants to go through that whole process of having to arrest a juvenile? And then, they're out in the streets within hours or days or whatever. So if we can prevent having to arrest somebody, with all the things that we can do all together collaboratively, we'd rather do that than have to deal with an arrest, because at that point for us, it's kind of too late. So I just want to give that tidbit of information.
Thank you. John, Eli, thank you. Thank Dan. And audience, thank you for joining us. I think it was a very stimulating and engaging conversation, and hopefully not the end of the conversation. We will be doing a live community forum in June, focusing on Spotlight PA coming to Berks County. And we do other ones roughly on a monthly basis. So thank you all for joining us. We will get you the information, the recording, and see you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.